Good evening. Welcome to MITV Primetime News. I am Jumoke Michaels. In the news tonight, President Bola Tinubu has pledged a stronger development partnership with Taraba State following the defection of Governor Agbo Kefas to the All Progressives Congress, APC. Vice President Kashim Shettima, who represented the president at a grand reception in Jalingo, described Taraba as strategic to Nigeria's food and energy security, assuring the governor of his full place within the ruling party and the continued development-focused relationship with the federal government. Shettima said Taraba's entry into the APC strengthens national cohesion, noting that the party remains a unifying platform built on inclusion, partnership, and balanced development. He added that the state's fertile land, water resources, and mineral wealth position it at the heart of Nigeria's economic future. The vice president stressed that the event was not about discovering Taraba's relevance, but recognizing its long-standing contribution to national stability. Also speaking, the Deputy Senate President, Senator Jibrin Barau, congratulated Governor Kefas, saying the decision would accelerate progress in agriculture, infrastructure, and the economy of Taraba State, with full support from the National Assembly. Governor Kefas, however, stated that his decision to join the APC was driven by the need to secure a better future for the youth, elders, and overall development of the state, adding that Taraba must align with the center to benefit fully from federal policies and programs. APC National Chairman Professor Nantawe Yewada also said the governor's defection aligns Taraba with the center, paving the way for increased development and prosperity. The event climaxed with the presentation of the APC flag to Governor Kefas, formally recognizing him as the party's leader in Taraba State.
Different from other political parties is that we believe that nations endure when they learn to recognize their acquired strength. We believe that Taraba is one of such strengths. It is a land that picks, powers, and saves the nation without demanding applause. So today, we are not discovering Taraba. We are just acknowledging what we have always known. Its place at the center of Nigeria's political stability and future. After all, Taraba gave one of the finest officers the Nigerian army has ever produced, in the person of General Theophilus Yakubu Danjuma. The APC was built as a meeting point, a place where regions converge, where differences find direction, where ambition is disciplined by purpose, and to have Taraba firmly within this spot is to strengthen that convergence strategically, politically, and economically. And for me, from the northeastern sub-region, it's a thing of pride that Taraba has joined the APC poll.
It's the biggest achievement he has done for the people of Taraba, shifting and aligning with the federal government, shifting and aligning with what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is doing right at the center. All that we need in Taraba is aligning with the center so that all the benefit that comes to the center will come to Taraba State. Taraba State is the richest state in terms of agriculture, solid mineral, tourism, and all that you need in Taraba is aligned with the center so that we get the power sector from the Mambila Plateau settled. We get the agriculture sector settled. We get the youth engaged. We get the women productive. We get the economy more productive. And that's what the government is trying to do, and he has done rightly. And I'm sure in the nearest future, you see the benefit of moving to be part of the progressive policies of government at the national center.
We commend the effort of our security agencies and reaffirm our commitment to prioritizing people over bigotry always. Let me be clear today, I have moved from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressive Congress. Some have called this defection, others have called it self-preservation, some say it is ambition. But I say to you, it is about mission. I did not make this decision lightly. I did not make it for comfort. I made it with full awareness of the burden I carry as a servant of my people.
I rejoice with the people of Taraba State for joining the renewed Hope family. And I rejoice with our brother, the governor, for leading this historic feat. We promise Taraba people that Governor Abu Skebas has done the right thing for his people. And the 29 of us in the PGF will give him every support to ensure
The federal government has declared that the economic reforms instituted by President Bola Tinubu, specifically the removal of petroleum subsidy, foreign exchange unification, and the 2026 tax laws are yielding positive results, citing a resurgence in foreign investment and the successful disbursement of 174 billion naira in student loans. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, spoke on Saturday while delivering the 34th convocation lecture of the Federal University of Technology, Minna, titled Youth and Nation Building, Navigating Opportunities in an Era of National Reforms. Idris stated that the administration's bold and ambitious reforms were necessary to reset the economic landscape and end the cycle of doing the same thing repeatedly while expecting different results, noting that contrary to fears of an exodus, multinational corporations are renewing their interest in the Nigerian market. The minister also provided sobering demographic projections, noting that within 25 years, Nigeria will become the world's third most populous country with 400 million people, surpassing the United States. He challenged the graduating students to reject cynicism regarding government programs, citing the success of the 3 Million Technical Talents program and the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation as evidence of available opportunities. President Bola Tinubu has called for the reactivation of a regional standby force to strengthen collective security efforts in West Africa and the Sahel, urging countries in the region to leverage Nigeria's National Counter-Terrorism Center in Abuja as an intelligence and operations hub. Tinubu's position was conveyed in Nigeria's official statement delivered by the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Bianca Odumegu Ojukwu, at the Conference on Security Situation, Operational Challenges and Future Risk Trajectories in West Africa and the Sahel, held in Accra, Ghana, from January 29 to 30th, 2026. According to a statement issued on Saturday in Abuja by the Special Assistant on Communications and New Media to the Minister, Magnus Eze, the President reaffirmed Nigeria's unwavering commitment to safeguarding peace, security, and stability in the region, stressing the need for stronger multilateral cooperation to address the worsening security situation in the Sahel. He noted that Nigeria has continued to monitor and disrupt terrorist activities through joint efforts with regional and continental institutions, including the Regional Intelligence Fusion Unit, Liaison Fusion Unit, Eastern African Fusion Unit, and the Committee of Intelligence and Security Services of Africa. He recalled that in 2025, the NCTC signed a Memorandum of Understanding with the African Union on collaborative counter-terrorism efforts to combat terrorism and violent extremism across the continent. federal government says the reforms of President Bola Tinubu's administration are beginning to restore the confidence of the global community in Nigeria, with foreign professionals now enrolling in certification programs within the country. Deputy Chief of Staff to the President, Senator Ibrahim Hadejia, described the graduation of 2,100 certified procurement professionals from Nigeria and abroad as a major milestone under the Renewed Hope agenda. He said the participation of foreign professionals reflects growing trust in Nigeria's reform efforts and a shift away from mediocrity in public procurement, stressing that transparent and strategic procurement is now central to governance and national development. Senator Ibrahim charged the graduates to uphold integrity, transparency, and patriotism, describing them as custodians of public trust, whose decisions will directly impact national development. He commended the Bureau of Public Procurement, the SPESSC project, the World Bank, and other development partners for strengthening institutions and rebuilding public trust. Earlier, the chairman of the Senate Committee on Procurement, Senator Olajide Ikpinsagba, pledged the National Assembly's support for the sustainability of the program, while BPP Director General Dr. Adebowale Adedokun announced presidential approval for the deployment of community-based procurement officers nationwide. The World Bank also urged other African countries to emulate Nigeria's procurement reform model, describing it as a benchmark for transparency and accountability in public service.
It gives me great pleasure to be with you today at what is by every measure a defining moment in Nigeria's ongoing journey towards institutional integrity, ethical governance, and national interest. We are here to celebrate the first cohort of certified procurement professionals, a milestone that reflects both foresight and resolve in the implementation of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's Renewed Hope agenda. For a nation of Nigeria's scale and ambition, the prudent, transparent, and strategic management of public resources is not a technical afterthought. It is the engine room of development under the Renewed Hope agenda. It shapes the quality of our roads and railways, the resilience of our healthcare system, the reach of our schools and universities, and ultimately the confidence that citizens place in their government. The administration understands that truth clearly, which is why public procurement reform occupies a central place in our government strategy.
Honor for me to address you today as we celebrate this significant milestone achieved by the project and specifically achieved by the Bureau of Public Procurement in its effort to deepen and sustain procurement reforms in Nigeria. This inaugural convocation of candidates certified through the National Procurement Certification Program marks a historic step toward strengthening professionalism, transparency, and accountability in public procurement. It also highlights the shared commitment of the government and stakeholders to achieving the Sustainable Procurement, Environmental and Social Standards Enhancement Project's goal of building lasting institutional capacity and a skilled workforce to support efficient service delivery and national development. My brief remarks today, which, as indicated in the program, is on the history and impact of the SPESSC project in Nigeria, will essentially tell us about the journey so far and the progress that we have made in the last few years.
Occasion. A program implemented by the Bureau of Public Procurement under the Sustainable Procurement, Environment and Social Standard Enhancement Program, being supported by the World Bank. Permit me to acknowledge the role of the entire World Bank team, World Bank group, from Washington. About 10 of them are here this morning. Again, at this junction, allow me also to recognize the distinguished Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Senate Committee on Public Procurement here present. Good morning, sir. Over the years, there has been past attempts at professionalization of procurement practices in Nigeria, capacity programs supported by PTDF, and the use of BPP conversion program. However, all these various attempts did not solve the identified problems in procurement, such as weak performance of public procurement system due to mainly to lack of professionalization of the procurement functions, no structured and harmonized capacity building program for procurement professionals, lack of adequate procurement capacity due to absence of capacity development strategy. Lastly,
the Senate Committee on Appropriations has unveiled a timetable for the consideration and passage of Nigeria's 2026 Appropriation Bill, setting March 17, 2026 as its target for completion. Chairman of the committee, Senator Solomon Olamilekan, disclosed this during a meeting of the committee, outlining a structured legislative process aimed at ensuring timely passage of the budget. The timetable also noted public hearings and engagements with ministries, departments, and agencies will hold from Monday, February 2nd to Friday, February 13, 2026. During this period, subcommittees are expected to interface with heads of MDAs for budget defense and clarifications. Submission and defense of subcommittee reports are scheduled for February 16 to 23rd, 2026. The committee will then move to the consolidation and harmonization phase of the various reports from February 21 to March 17, 2026. Some of the dates overlap to maintain momentum and avoid delays in the legislative process. Presentation and laying of the final report before the Senate is expected between March 17 and March 19, 2026. Senator Olamilekan stressed the need for urgency and discipline among committee members, urging them to adhere strictly to the timetable despite indications that the leadership of the Senate is pushing for an earlier passage date of March 12.
17th, and on the 19th they will now go. So that's it. So, sir, let's put it that on the, what's Thursday next week? 5th of?
Next week is the 5th.
5th. So that is 5th on Thursday is for the economic team, while Monday is what? Monday the 9th is for our interactive session. So that the timetable for budget preparation and consideration for 2026 appropriation bill as laid out and amended and seconded by Senator Uzokalu, say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Proceedings of the Senate Committee on Appropriations were stalled as several committee chairmen raised concerns over unpaid capital components of previous federal budgets. The concerns were voiced during a meeting between the Appropriations Committee and chairmen of standing committees, with lawmakers warning that lingering budget backlogs could derail the federal government's plan to operate a single budget cycle within a fiscal year. Chairman of the committee, Senator Solomon Olamilekan Adeola, reaffirmed the administration's commitment to the reform, which is aimed at strengthening fiscal discipline and improving budget implementation. Meanwhile, Deputy Minority Leader of the Senate, Senator Yewumi Olalere, cautioned that the proposed transition to a single budget cycle beginning April 1, 2026 is under serious threat due to unresolved obligations from previous fiscal years. Adding his voice, Senator Francis Adenigba Fadaunsi said astounding liabilities from the 2024 budget remain unpaid and must be urgently addressed to restore confidence in the budgeting process. Lawmakers also lamented the lack of operational funds for committee activities, especially oversight visits to ministries, departments, and agencies.
There will be meeting with the economic team of the president the economic team will be briefing the committee on appropriation. And if the subcommittee, if there is anybody here who is the subcommittee chairman who would love to attend, you are welcome. They will be briefing the committee on appropriation on the proposed appropriation bill before us. And they'll be speaking to us along the line of the performance of 2025 budgets. That will be discussed extensively. Then the economic policy and economic trust of this administration will also be discussed. And from there, the 2026 appropriation bill that is currently before us, they will throw more light into what as contained in the budget. Yes, we have a budget of 58.18 trillion before us, but the other components that makes up the budget will have to be extensively discussed.
Projects done and paid for. 2024, most of the 2024 have not been paid for. That is as if the two of us passed notes to each other. But no, we are seeing the minds of all the senators. If 2024 has not been cleared, and the contractors are there carrying placard up and down, we are now liars to our constitution.
Before we went on break, till the time the president presented this budget, what we had in mind was that the 2026 budget will correct all the clumsiness that we are having, managing 2-3 budgets at the same time, that will not happen again from ending of March. And for that to happen, we agree that what we had in 2024 budget and 30% of 2025 budget must have been cleared as at ending of March this year, so that 2026 budget will contain 70% of 2025 and the real budget of 2026. Mr. Chairman, this is ending of January. 1 month had gone. And investigation revealed that most of the 2024 budget debt have not been paid. The 30% promise of 2025 has not been paid, and 1 month had gone. We have 2 months now. If we cannot clear this one as at the end of March, is it not the beginning of another problem for 2026 budget legislation?
I think it is the merit arising from their performance that informed Mr. President's decisions to replicate that in the other zones in the country. So I would plead very seriously that you, using your good office, you help us to ensure that funding is done in this 2026 budget, so that the commissions can take off. That will be my plea, sir. Thank you very much.
The Defense Headquarters disclosed that the Nigerian Armed Forces has recorded major operational successes across the country in January 2026, dealing decisive blows to terrorist and criminal networks. Briefing journalists in Abuja, the Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Michael Onoja, said troops sustained coordinated offensive operations in line with their constitutional mandate to protect lives, property, and national assets. In the Northeast, operations against Boko Haram, ISWAP, and JAS terrorists across Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa states led to the neutralization of several fighters, the arrest of 74 suspects, the rescue of 40 kidnapped victims, and the surrender of 44 terrorists and their family members. Air interdiction missions also destroyed terrorist hideouts in the Tumbons and Mandara Mountains, eliminating senior ISWAP commanders. He added that in the Northwest, North Central, and areas under Operation Wellstroke, troops neutralized terrorists, arrested over 200 suspects, and rescued more than 150 kidnapped victims with arms, ammunition, vehicles, and rustled livestock recovered. In the South-South, security forces dismantled 53 illegal refining sites and arrested 81 oil thieves, while in the southeast, over 80 militants surrendered, leading to a significant drop in crime rates. Major General Onoja reaffirmed the armed forces' commitment to sustaining operations nationwide and urged Nigerians to support security efforts by providing timely and credible information, echoing the Chief of Defense Staff's directive for citizens to see something, say something. Bothered by the recurring incidences of building collapse, the Nigerian Institution of Civil Engineers has made a strong call on Nigerians to always hire professionals for construction projects to reduce building and infrastructure collapse in the country. The national chairman of the Nigerian Institution of Civil Engineers, Engineer Tokunbo Ajanoku, made the call on Saturday in Lagos at the Walk Against Building and Infrastructure Collapse 2.0 in Ikeja, Lagos, with the theme, Say No to Building Collapse, Build Right and Build Safe. The advocacy walk, which started from the Lagos State Fire Service Station, Alausa Ikeja, en route Awolowo Road to Computer Village and back to the starting point, reinforced the urgent need for safer construction practices, strict compliance with professional standards, and the adoption of the Build Right, Build Safe principle. Ajanoku said, addressing building collapses requires stakeholders like government, professionals, investors, and property owners to focus on data collection, training, advocacy, and policy formulation. Engineer Ayotunde Ogunaike of the Nigerian Society of Engineers noted that clients often hire unqualified individuals contributing to building collapses, pointing out that hiring professionals ensures quality of construction projects. He also urged professionals to follow building standards and codes. The Lagos State Chairman of NICE, Engineer Shobowale Idris, while lauding the state government on Certified Accreditors Program for Building Safety and the Climate Action Plan, said the state chapter of NICE is working with the state government on building safety initiatives. The initiative was a good collective call to action for regulators, professionals, artisans, and the public to say no to building collapse, prioritize safety, and patronize registered civil engineers and other professionals in the building construction industry.
Several courses, and we all know what those courses are, but we're at a point where it's not about just articulating those courses anymore. We've reached the point where we must begin to do everything to mitigate against it and ensure that there is an end to building collapse in Nigeria. What you see in Lagos is what you will see in Sokoto. Don't forget that when there's construction going on in Lagos, there is a much smaller percentage going on in other states. So that is where we are at right now. And that is why all stakeholders, beginning with data, beginning with training, beginning with advocacy, taking it to the level of ensuring that policy formulation is also on point with respect to mitigating it. Everybody is putting their hands on deck. Everybody is working together. You will see from this gathering that it's not just about one particular professional. It's about all of us in the built environment, even property owners. Nobody is left out. It goes beyond the guys that are executing. It goes to the place of even the guys that are actually conceiving it.
Most clients, they patronize quacks. And that's why we're here this morning, that yes, we want to speak out, we want to work and tell the nation, because it's happening in about 33 states, including Abuja. So we're here in Lagos as a representative to tell the world, to tell Nigerians that they should not patronize quacks. They should patronize engineers, architects, all the trained people.
It's the right step in the right direction. You'll find out that invariably we have some of our members, who are parts of the CAP we are talking about now. And it's a collaborative effort eventually, because the government on its own part is trying to stem down the issue of building collapse. And those of us within the institution, whose responsibilities are saddled with carrying out design, construction and supervision of building construction, we are augmenting our efforts with that of the government so that holistically we have a situation whereby the issue of building collapse is turned down.
It's an advocacy to really enlighten the public, especially the developers, homeowners, and the general public about the menace of building and infrastructure collapse in our dear state, Lagos State. Trust me, building collapse is preventable if we all put all hands on deck to do the right thing at the right time to salvage the situation of building collapse that usually occur in Lagos and in Nigeria at large. NICE Lagos chapter is in synergy with the Lagos State government, which also involved the introduction of the CAP process, and the major reason for inauguration of this CAP process is to curb the menace of building and infrastructure collapse in Lagos State. Some of our members are also partaking in the CAP process in Lagos State. This simply signifies that NICE Lagos chapter is trying every best means to ensure that we don't have any occurrence of building and infrastructure collapse in Lagos State.
Muslim community of Lagos State have declared that they will not support any political party that presents a non-Muslim candidate for the governorship in the 2027 general election. The position was made known at 2026 General Assembly, a stakeholders' engagement where Muslim leaders said their stance is driven by the need for fair representation, inclusion, and the protection of religious interests in the governance of the state. Our correspondent, Fauzia Gbadinyoka Bakari, was there.
It's a good government. Don't change.
The 2026 General Assembly of the Muslim Community of Lagos State brought together Islamic scholars, community leaders, and government officials to discuss the role of faith-based values in contemporary governance.
Let this become aspirational.
The Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Obafemi Hamzat, who is also a keynote speaker, said Islam provides a timeline framework for leadership that prioritizes integrity, transparency, compassion, and service to humanity, noting that these principles remain relevant in addressing contemporary governance challenges. The Deputy Governor, who was represented by Special Advisor to Lagos State Governor on Political, Legislative and Civic Engagement, Dr. Afolabi Tajuddin, stressed that integrity, accountability and justice are core Islamic principles that should guide leadership in today's society. He noted that Lagos as a cosmopolitan city requires leaders who combine moral discipline with inclusive governance to ensure sustainable development and social harmony.
Islam recognizes that power hidden within it becomes dangerous. Transparency does not weaken authority, it legitimizes it. When people understand why decisions are made, how resources are allocated, and what rules apply.
Lead speakers at the Assembly also presented a blueprint for leaders and the led in contemporary Lagos, outlining responsibilities on both sides of governance.
It is true there are so many things wrong with the system. It is true that some of these people in reality misbehave. But why do they misbehave? Because there are no people who challenge them. It is not just condemning them, but you challenge, you engage them. Let them see that they are wrong. Because there are times people get overwhelmed by the pressures of the office and they don't really know what to do again. So when you exist as if you cannot be a politician, then constitute yourself into an ethical pressure group that would insist that they do what is right, and you will discover that gradually we will be able to achieve that.
You have a good intention to make life better for us as a leader. Go there and make life better for us. And it is you that also can change the orientation of the led. And it is then you can earn their trust. When we were growing up in the 80s and 90s, the slogans were education for all by year 2000, health for all by year 2000, House for all by year 2000. This is 2025. I ask myself, where is the house? Where is the health? Where is the education?
It's the leadership or the followership. Because many people always talk about leadership problems. We have always neglected the followership problems. If we talk about a leader is just one person leading millions of people in a community. If just 1,000 out of those millions, ravage, bring up any issue, I'm telling you, those people might make the situation ungovernable.
President of the Muslim community of Lagos State, Alhaji Onyilomo, described the assembly as timely, saying the community remains committed to promoting moral values, peaceful coexistence, and responsible leadership.
We want governance to be proper. Governance to go down to the last level. We want government to serve the people, to change the situation of our people. Some people are on level 1 in terms of what they eat every day. Let them feel the government that comes in and they become 2. Some people eat once a day. So if there is a government that makes them eat twice a day, it's a good government. Just change what you met on ground to go higher. You cannot solve all the problem in the world.
The 2026 General Assembly concluded with the presentation of the newly drafted Islamic law.
You're still watching the Primetime News on MITV. Up next are stories from the foreign scene. We'll bring you details after this break. Welcome back. The death toll from a landslide on Indonesia's main island of Java a week ago rose to 53 on Saturday, a rescue official said, with 10 people still missing. An intense downpour triggered the landslide that hit Pasir Langu village in an area southeast of the capital, Jakarta, damaging more than 50 houses and displacing about 650 people. Thousands of rescuers, helped by the military, police, and volunteers, have been digging through the mud, searching for victims. They had recovered and identified 53 bodies by Saturday, said Adedian Permena, the head of the local search and rescue agency, up from a previous toll of 44. At least 10 people are still missing, he said, but clearer weather was helping the search. The Indonesian Navy has said that 23 personnel who were training in the area were among those caught in the landslide. The search and rescue operation in the West Bandung region has been extended until Friday. The U.S. government entered a partial shutdown Saturday as a midnight funding deadline passed without Congress approving a 2026 budget, though disruption was expected to be limited, with the House set to move early next week to ratify a Senate-backed deal. The funding lapse followed a breakdown in negotiations driven by Democratic anger over the killing of 2 protesters in Minneapolis by federal immigration agents, which derailed talks over new money for the Department of Homeland Security. Roughly 3/4 of federal operations are affected, potentially triggering shutdown procedures across a wide range of agencies and operations, from education and health to housing and defense. Federal departments were expected to begin implementing shutdown plans overnight, but congressional leaders in both parties said the Senate's action made a short disruption far more likely than a prolonged impasse. If the House approves the package as expected early next week, funding will be restored within days, limiting the practical impact of the shutdown on government services, contractors, and federal workers. Between 8,000 and 10,000 people joined an emotional silent march in Copenhagen on Saturday, organized by Denmark's Veterans Association to protest Donald Trump's comments downplaying the role of non-US NATO troops in Afghanistan. The association had expected well over 1,000 people to take part, and Danes braved sub-zero temperatures en masse to support their veterans and the 44 Danes who died in Afghanistan. Police said they estimated the number of demonstrators was at least 10,000, while organizers put the turnout at between 8,000 and 10,000. Trump sparked outrage in Denmark and across Europe on January 22nd when he said European NATO troops stayed a little back, a little off the front lines during the 20-year conflict in Afghanistan. The Scandinavian country fought alongside U.S. forces during the Gulf War, as well as in Afghanistan and Iraq. Gathering in Copenhagen's Kastellet, or Citadel, a brief ceremony was held at the monument to fallen soldiers before the procession began. At least 28 people have been killed in a wave of Israeli airstrikes across Gaza Strip on Saturday, according to local authorities. The Civil Defense Agency, which is operated by Hamas, says children and women were among those killed. It added that in one attack, helicopter gunships hit a tent sheltering displaced people in the southern city of Khan Yunis. Palestinians have described these strikes as the heaviest since the second phase of the ceasefire, brokered by President Trump in October, came into effect earlier this month. The Israeli military confirmed that a number of strikes were carried out in response to what it said was a Hamas violation of the agreement on Friday. Both Israel and Hamas have accused each other of violating the truce since it came into effect last year. In a statement, the Israel Defense Forces said 8 terrorists were identified exiting the underground terror infrastructure in eastern Rafah, an area in Gaza where Israeli forces are deployed under the October agreement. Up next are sports stories. We'll bring you details after this break. Welcome back. Arsenal settled any fears of a wobble in their pursuit of a first Premier League title in 22 years by winning 4-0 at Leeds on Saturday. The Gunners' advantage over Manchester City and Aston Villa, who are both in action on Sunday, stretches to 7 points as Mikel Arteta's men took another step towards the title at Elland Road. A first home defeat of the season last weekend to Manchester United capped a run of just 2 points from a possible 9 in Arsenal's previous 3 league games. After finishing as runners-up for the past 3 seasons, questions were raised over the mentality of Arteta's men to get over the line in a title race. The visitors were dealt another blow before kickoff as Bukayo Saka was injured in the warm-up, but his replacement, Noni Madueke, played a major part in inflicting just a second defeat in 12 games on Leeds. Madueke's cross was headed in by Martin Zubimendi to open the scoring. Leeds goalkeeper Carl Darlow could then only parry another dangerous delivery from the England winger into his own goal before half-time. Elana Rybanikina took revenge over world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka to win a nail-biting Australian Open final Saturday and clinch her second Grand Slam title. The big-serving Kazakh 5th seed held her nerve to pull through 6-4, 4-6, 6-4 at Rod Laver Arena in Melbourne in 2 hours 18 minutes. It was payback after the Belarusian Sabalenka won the 2023 final between two of the hardest hitters in women's tennis, the high school Rybakina, 26, who was born in Moscow, adds her Melbourne triumph to her Wimbledon win in 2022. It was more disappointment in a major final for Sabalenka, who won the US Open last year for the second time, but lost the French Open and Melbourne title deciders. And that's the primetime news on MITV. Thanks for watching. I am Jumoke Michaels. Good night.